honoring Elohim's mandate. And now for today's message.
Well, hello. Welcome to SHEM Ministries, Souls Honoring Elohim's Mandate. And this is our SHEM 2 night. That is a spiritual, healthy, enlightening mandate ministry. And yes, I am Dr. Anna Shaw Devlin, a family nurse practitioner, a lead servant of this ministry who loves coming before you, telling you something that God has given me, a word for you. But tonight, we are going to rewind and replay God's green earth. Yes. Why is that so important for us to revisit this message that was originally broadcast back, I think it was June 14th of last year. And we talked about God's green earth regarding its medicinal properties, medicine related herbs, this, that, and the other. Well, unfortunately, right now, we are in a recession that no one wants to kind of talk about. And some of our recession is man-made. And it is those of you who have been in the grocery store, I know you have. When you have to pay $8.99 a pound for a chicken wing that doesn't have much meat, or you're paying $10.99 a pound for a roast, I think it's time for us to think about God's green earth in regards to growing vegetables and fruit and things and the medication. So tonight's message is twofold. It is us revisiting the benefits of focusing on God's green earth that was created in the garden. Glory be to God. So please enjoy this rewind and replay of God's green earth. God bless you and enjoy.
Thank you for watching SHEM Ministries, Souls Honoring Elohim's Mandate. And now for today's message.
Well, hello. Welcome to SHEM Ministries. That is Souls Honoring Elohim's Mandate. And I am Dr. Anna Shaw Devlin, a family nurse practitioner. And this is our SHEM 2 night. SHEM 2? What's that? That is Souls Spiritual, Healthy, Enlightening Mandate Ministry. Woo! How long have I been doing this? No excuses. To God be the glory. Thank you, though. Let me tell you a little disclosure. What we're talking about tonight is actually something that my nose is itching. I've been outside today, and Oh my gosh, I've been sneezing. My head's been kind of stopped up. My ear was hurting. And I was like, I need to go back in the house. The pollen count, I didn't even look at the pollen count before I went out, but it had to be high. It has to be. So it's kind of, ironic that the Lord kind of pushed me in this area where we're going to talk about herbs, okay? And so the topic for tonight is God's green earth. Let's talk about herbal medicine. Yes. Because people have been taking herbs for years. And and I've always, because I'm in healthcare, been more reliant on the conventional medications. But if God created these herbs, is it not possible that we should or could consider their efficacy? What's efficacy? How efficient they are in treatment. So I came across a presentation that I am going to give credit to. This actually came from the what we call NetCE for nurses and nurse practitioners. It is a place where we can go to get information for continuing medical education hours. And so I received this in the mail, and I was looking through it, and I said, oh my gosh, this has got everything I need. So I was trying to get the actual NetCE is it's accredited to provide continuing education for advanced practice nurses. Okay, and this was a 2024 booklet. Okay, and I just want to share it with you because I was looking through it and reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, we need this. We need to talk about this. So look, I never, ever, ever wanted you all to think that everything I discussed came from my Noah. You have to read and study to know things in order to present stuff to other people. All I am is an empty vessel to present to you. So that being said, dear Heavenly Father, we give you all the honor, the glory, the thanks, and the praise. Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for giving us another chance, another opportunity in the land of the living to be the vessel that you need us to be in order to bless your people. Give them the wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the things that they need to know how to better care for themselves. Father, I thank you. I can't do nothing without you. And Lord, I ask that you let your anointing bless this message tonight, that it will edify your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Now, so we're talking about herbal medications, and I have never been I'm just truth, right? Been a big believer. I never told anyone not to take certain things that were herbs. What I would say to them is know what you're taking, and make sure that you know the side effects, the adverse effects, that if it were that it would not contradict or contraindicate or adversely react with your prescription medications. That if you were, for example, and this is a very, very, very good example. If you take a blood thinner, especially when everyone was taking warfarin or Coumadin. Oh my gosh. Warfarin and Coumadin interacted with prescription drugs, like almost everything, and even green leafy vegetables. And I mean, I'm telling you, warfarin, I'm so glad we have newer blood thinners now, like Eliquis and Xarelto and Plavix and stuff such as that. But one drug or class of drugs that definitely you should never, ever, ever take herbs without consulting your provider, your pharmacist, someone, is if you are on a blood thinner, do not take anything that's either prescription or over the counter without letting someone know that cannot do the research and make sure that it's safe for you to take that. Do not. And I'm going to go through some things because I need you to understand why. But for the most part, I want to talk about the 5 most utilized herbs in the United States or North America. So I got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. But I wanted to give you a little intro that I'm not saying don't use these things. I'm just saying you need to know what you're using and why you're using it. And know the side effects, the potential side effects. And why can we not use them? Were they not part of God's green earth? Yeah. Okay, so let's get going. So first of all, what I want to read to you, I want to introduce a term to you, and I have something I created that I'm going to leave up for a while as we talk. Okay. Well, actually, I'll probably leave this up the whole time because it shows me and it also shows what we're talking about. I want to talk about CAM in case you ever see this again. So we're talking about medicinal herbs and we're talking about herbal medications and this is also an evidence-based review. So the information that is being presented is proven information. It's the evidence, what's out there to support use, not using this, that, and the other. Okay, so there's a term called CAM, that I really want you to understand because you'll see this terminology and need to understand what it means. So CAM is complementary alternative medicine. But guess what? It also includes other than taking herbs. It's natural health products as well as prayer. Are you what? So you telling me that praying is a complementary alternative medicine? Oh, glory be to God. Yes, it is. Actually, I recommend you pray first. Yes, prayer. Glory be to. Listen, I can get caught up and go on and on and on just on the fact of knowing that prayer is considered a complementary alternative medicine. Woo! All right, let me move on. Woo, don't get stuck. I feel the fire burning deep down on the inside. But prayer. Next is chiropractic care. Now, those of you that have never been to a chiropractor, I have been to a chiropractor before. And it depends on what's wrong with you, but I've had some adjustments done to my neck after a car accident one time. And I'm going to tell you, I felt better. I did. But you got to make sure now that your chiropractor knows what they're doing. And the other thing, that it's not that they don't know what they're doing, but did you disclose and tell them everything they needed to know before they laid hands on you? Sometimes we withhold information and then you end up, oh, I'm worse than I was before I went. Well, did you tell them that back in 1984 you were in a car accident then and you had this? So in 2024, when they went to adjust you, they didn't know this, right? Because you forgot all about it because it was so many years ago. Keep those things in mind, okay? But chiropractic care, homeopathy, okay, which, can include, different forms of therapy. I'm so sorry, my mind just went blank. But reflexology and all of that. Yeah. I had to think about it. But there's so many things that they can do to your muscles and even the needles. What is wrong with me tonight? I can't think of that term, but homeopathy. And then let's not forget massage therapy. Massage therapy is big, okay? And the reason why I say that is because so many people realize the importance in how tense we are and getting a massage on a regular basis, how it makes you feel, relax those tense muscle strain from all the things that we end up having to do during the day. So these are complementary alternative medicines. These are things that, in addition to taking prescription medicine, these are things that can be done to alleviate and your pain and discomfort, because most of the time that's why we do what we do, right? I mean, even walking and going to the gym and whatever, those things relax your mind. We just got through talking about, are you happy, and meditation and all of that. So all of this stuff ties in together. So I wanted to present that now. And let me just read what it says. It says CAM includes a wide range of products, including natural health products, which is abbreviated as NHPs. And of course, like I said, these other practices of prayer, etc. And it says in Canada, a similar definition is followed, and regulation of natural herbal products falls under the jurisdiction of the Natural and Non-Prescription Health Products Directorate, which is a branch of Health Canada. So Canada has even taken it a step farther, where we may not have regulations for herbal products in the United States. They acknowledge and recognize that this is big stuff, and that we need to, we need to invest more in what people are taking. But let's also talk about universal health care too. So if you've got a government that is fronting more of the bill or whatever toward you being healthy and you're not doing it yourself, I would probably invest more in what you're taking and what you're doing and making sure it's safe, okay? Because when we talk about the disclosures, you'll understand. So it says the use of CAM for general health and well-being is greater in people with higher education and income. You know why? Well, look, I'm going to tell you what I think the reason why is. Because they're not cheap. If you get, well, if you really want good herbs, you're going to pay for good herbs. Okay? And I'm going to read to you a disclosure about disclosure and clinical need to identify the use of herbal medications. And we're going to talk about the factors that affect the concentration of the ingredients in these herbal medicines. Because I'm not going to start naming companies, but there are some well-known name brand herbal products that people feel safer in taking. And that includes vitamins. You know, if they come from so-and-so, they're more likely to have in it what it says is in there. And one thing when we go through these factors that affect the concentration, you'll see that there's a lot of additives in stuff that I'm not gonna say kind of trick you. That's not a good word, trick you. But if you don't know what those additives are, you won't know that that is only to enhance the herb and make you think you're getting a better quality than you really are. That's a nice way of saying it, okay? It's kind of like when we talked about drug use. And we were talking about fentanyl, and I was saying how people take heroin or cocaine and they add a little fentanyl to it, and you don't know fentanyl is in it because they can sell you less cocaine with a little fentanyl and make you thinking you getting a high quality cocaine when you really are not. It's just got some fentanyl in it. So I'm bringing that up because if something is not regulated, you don't know exactly what's in it. The label may say one thing, and if the company is not reputable, and if it's not been a herb that's been tested appropriately, you might get jacked up and don't understand why you jacked up, okay? So that's one of the importance why we need to talk about this stuff. We really do. Because I want to be able to say, ooh, this works and enhances and makes and whatever, but I can't say that without you truly understanding what all goes into an herbal preparation, especially if it's going to be efficacious and if it's going to be safe. Those are the two main things you need to make sure is that it's going to do what it says it's going to do and it's safe for human consumption. And we're going to talk about some stuff like hepatotoxicity, where your liver fails if you take this for a long period of time. So bear with me, okay? But they're saying, you know, that higher education and income is you know, that people will use these alternative medicines because these things aren't cheap. Everybody know that getting a good massage is costly, okay? But it also says that there is an estimated 13% of adult CAM users have indicated that they use CAM because conventional medicine was too expensive. Okay, remember what I said. CAM medicine also includes prayer. Now, last I heard, prayer was free. Free. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, prayer should be free. free, 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 free. Okay? So, anyway, let's move on. And let's talk about disclosure. Why disclosures are needed. So, it is estimated that 40 to 70% of patients do not report the use of herbal medications to their physicians and other healthcare providers. Wow. 70% of people, when the doctor says, "What are you taking?" they don't consider that a need to know. It's just an over-the-counter herb. Well, guess what? You need to start disclosing over-the-counter medications and preparations more. You will kill yourself unknowingly because these herbs or your medicine, you may not understand the potential reaction, how these herbs work. Because years ago, many years ago, before there was a Lilly and drug companies, that Pfizer, and before there were these companies that made and manufactured medicine, people made their own medicine. Okay? And, anyway, let me just keep going. I don't want to get stuck on that because I don't want anyone to think that I'm talking against taking something herbal, because I'm actually saying to you, we need to look into it more and see the benefits. I'm saying this now, okay? So, but if 40 to 70% of patients fail to report the use of herbal medicines to their physicians or other healthcare providers, CAM use is not relevant because they are not mainstream medical products or procedures. The major reason for patients' failure to disclose the use of CAM was their concern of a negative reaction by the practitioner. So remember now, CAM includes herbal preparations. So it also says that providers, there was a study done that providers did not know much about herbal preparations. I mean, you spend most of your time learning prescription drugs. You may not take the time to figure out what is this used for and what's a safe dose and this, that, and the other. Okay? So it's saying here that many times people didn't tell their doctor because they were afraid of what they would say, their reaction, and doctors didn't ask like they probably should because they didn't know enough to even ask. Yes, that's right. It says in this one study in 2010, physicians felt that their personal knowledge about herbal medicines was quite or very poor. And 89% conceded that their knowledge of herbal medications was much poorer than their knowledge of prescription drugs. If you had to compare the two. Oh yeah, I know this prescription drug and all the side effects, but I don't know much about that herb you're taking. Okay? This is facts. Because I need you to understand that if you tell your doctor you're taking an herb and your doctor says, I can't advise you on that because I don't know much about that, I want you to be prepared for that reaction or that response. Don't be like, what? You a doctor and you don't know? I'm telling you, it's not conventional medicine. We don't study that. But it should not discourage you from telling them that you're taking it, because it could be life or death. This also says a number of patients do not disclose the use of herbal medicines simply because their healthcare provider didn't ask. So I'm saying to you, if they don't ask, don't be like, don't ask, don't tell. No, because this is your life. If they don't ask and you take herbal preparations, you owe yourself enough to say, Doc, I'm taking ginkgo, okay? Doc, I'm taking saw palmetto. Doc, I'm taking kava, okay? Because who is it going to hurt? It'll end up hurting you. All right. So now let's move on. So what factors affect the concentration of active ingredients in herbal medicines? This is very, very significant information right here. And while I'm presenting this information, I want you to think about when you go to the grocery store and you buy fruits and vegetables. We got on this thing now about making sure we buy organic. Well, why did we decide we needed to buy organic? Because we found out that all these pesticides and all this stuff was being put in fruits and vegetables so that they can manufacture them and keep them fresh longer by the time they got to the grocery store so that they could sell them and make a profit. And these herbicides and all this stuff to keep the bugs out eating up my crop and this, that, and the other. And you realize that you were ingesting these herbicides and all this toxic stuff. So we decided, well, I'm not buying, if they ain't organic, I ain't buying it. And you start spending more money for organic. Well, guess what? Same thing. Let's talk about these factors. In North America, regulation of herbal medicines is not as strict as that applied to conventional medications. Now, conventional medications have to get FDA approved. They go through testing. Hold on, let me fix here. Okay. They the stuff that they go through is significant in comparison to anything else that we can purchase, buy, and ingest. Okay. In fact, good manufacturing practices applicable to food manufacturing are some of the only regulations in place to assure standards and quality control of dietary supplements. Wow. The concentration of active ingredients in herbal medicines. Now, there's a difference between dietary supplements and herbal medicines. The concentration of active ingredients in herbal medicines, however, is affected by numerous factors, including the correct identification of the botanical source. Okay, where did the source of this come from? What country did it come from? Do you even know where they got it from? Uh-oh. And does that country that they got it from have any form of regulations? And here we are putting it in our body like poison. You might as well eat the non-organic fruit and vegetables with the herbicides Okay? Just saying. Let's see. The presence of contaminants or substitution of the intended source or other plants of lower cost with potential toxicologic consequences. So those two leaves look alike. One is the real thing and the other is the fake thing. And but if I blend them and grind them and put them together and I sell it to you, you ain't gonna know the difference, because ain't nobody regulating to say that this is what you're buying. Be careful. The growing conditions, including temperature, geography and time of the harvest, and possible contamination with microorganisms. What? Like E. coli? What? Salmonella? What? How do you know that they're not sharing equipment with another manufacturer? Because it's not regulated. There is no safety health inspector going around and making sure the temperature on the refrigerator is right, that you don't leave something out more than 12 hours, I'm telling you, none of that. That there aren't heavy metals in the water that they're using, pesticides, as I mentioned, or prescription drugs. So are you telling me that someone could take a prescription drug that has the same effect and mix it with the herbal medicine and sell it to us and try to make us think that this is 100% an herb and it's got what? Really? It's not regulated. Okay? Preparation of the specimens, drying, grinding, how they prepared it, collection of the appropriate plant part. Is it the leaf versus the root? When all the medicinal properties in that herb comes from the root, and you're using the leaf because you got more abundance in the leaf. But the root is where you're getting what you need. How do you know that? Okay. Laboratory processing. The solvent that's used for extraction of the active ingredients. Storage, formulation of the final product. Is it liquid versus solid pill? All of these things will affect the concentration of the active ingredients in your herbal medicines, because you want the active ingredients. So I say to you, grow your own. Get your own botanical garden. Get you a mortar and pestle. Grind and crush up your own stuff. That's what they did back in the day. But make sure you know what you're grinding and crushing. No, there has to be companies out there that are reputable. But one thing I do need you to know, if they are, you're going to pay for it. It's not going to be cheap. Okay? That's when you get a bulk supply and 3 people in the family share it. I'm telling you. That's what you do. Okay. Now, these processes vary considerably among manufacturers. That's what I was saying. And influence product quality and concentration of active ingredients in the final product. Unlike most conventional medications, herbal products often have numerous active ingredients. Pharmacologic and chemical interactions between the ingredients may be required for the product to be effective. So what it's saying is, in order to activate this herb, we may have to add other additives in it. Okay? So, accordingly, isolation and purification of a single individual chemical may not lead to the same therapeutic effect as the one described for the original product. So, I'm getting ready to go through and tell you about the five most commonly used herbal medicines. Now, based on what I just read to you, it says that the way these herbs are prepared, a single individual chemical may not lead to the same therapeutic effect that you're looking for. So where you purchase them from and the manufacturer may alter its effectiveness. For example, you buy some echinacea from this company and you buy echinacea from this company, the effect may not be the same. Depends on where you get it from. Okay? Now, as I mentioned, 5 of the most commonly used herbal medicines in North America were studied. Specifically, saw palmetto, St. John's wort, echinacea, ginkgo biloba, and kava. And those are the ones that we're going to talk about tonight. Okay? So now, I do want to say to you that these medications were studied for their efficacy, how well they worked. And I will tell you that if they had 3 stars, they were clinically effective. It demonstrated by multiple randomized clinical trials. 2 stars, they were clinically beneficial, demonstrated by several controlled clinical trials. Although some studies show conflicting or inconclusive results. And if it was only 1 star, limited effectiveness, demonstrated by controlled clinical trials. And if there was no data, efficacy data, non-existent or minimal supportive scientific evaluation. So out of the 5 that we are going to talk about, the most efficacious that we're going to talk about tonight actually is kava, and that is Kava. And it's used, I'll go through each one individually and tell you what they're used for. Okay, but let's start with the saw palmetto, and I've got that up there in case you want to know how to spell it. Now, St. John's wort, I just abbreviated that as SJW. But saw palmetto had 2 stars, okay? And it is known as the American dwarf palm or cabbage palm. This abundant and scrubby palm is indigenous to Florida. So most of the time, if you go in the store and you look at saw palmetto, look and see where it came from. If it's abundant in Florida, I would think I would want to get it from Florida. And other southeastern states of the United States, okay? I know South Carolina is at the saw palmetto state, okay? But let's talk about historical and current use. And then we're going to talk about adverse effects, drug interactions, and dosage, okay? Now, I hope we make it through all of these tonight, but if not, we'll do a part 2. And then I can add some other herbs, like some other stuff, like ginseng and whatever. We'll probably just make it 2 so we can talk about each one individually, the most common. But these are the top 5 in North America. So saw palmetto berries, they're berries now, are collected. Now, if you go into one of those natural stores where people do their own, and they start saying saw palmetto and they don't say it's a berry, turn around and walk out. Okay? I'm just telling you. But the berries are collected in the autumn. And they were used by southeastern Native Americans, and we know those are indigenous Native Americans, in the treatment of urinary disorders and as an antiseptic. Saw palmetto extracts are now used in the treatment of BPH. What's BPH? Benign prostatic hypertrophy. That's the thing that men get. Now, if you're a woman talking about BPH, something ain't right. But BPH is when the prostate gland gets swollen, and sometimes people get a false reading of cancer, of prostate cancer. Now, I do not know enough about saw palmetto, and I did not read all the pharmacology, but if you are a man and you're taking saw palmetto, please tell your urologist because you need to know, is there a potential that can cause me to have a false positive elevated PSA or a false low PSA, and you didn't even know you had prostate cancer because you're taking saw palmetto for your urinary symptoms, and the PSA level never went up, and the whole time you had prostate cancer and didn't know it. And by the time you figured it out, it spread. Okay? So when I say to you, please disclose your herbal medications to your provider. That is an excellent example why you should disclose to your provider. I'm not saying that saw palmetto will raise your PSA or lower your PSA, but is it worth taking the chance of it causing you to have a false positive or a false negative test result? I'm just saying, think about it. But in several European countries, use of this herb has been approved for the treatment of mild to moderate BPH. So if you go into another country, or a person is from another country and they come here and practice in the United States, they may recommend it to you. But if you didn't know that saw palmetto treated BPH, hey, what I'm saying to you is we don't know enough. And we need to take the time and study it, research, and find the information. But this is evidence-based information here. In Germany and Austria, saw palmetto is the most common form of therapy for BPH. Wow. And represents more than 90% of all drugs prescribed for the treatment of this disorder. Woo! So guess what? I would be having a conversation with my doctor if my prostate gland was giving me some issues. And I would consider finding me a good source of saw palmetto. But definitely have that conversation with your healthcare provider. But if 90%, if it represents more than 90% of all drugs prescribed now, not recommended you try. Okay, let's move on. Because I want to talk about adverse effects and drug interactions. So consistently, all the studies reveal the absence of significant side effects. What? A 2008 meta-analysis, which means multiple. They took many research studies and put them all together in one meta-analysis of saw palmetto trials found that serious adverse effects such as cancer, sexual dysfunction, hepatotoxicity, and respiratory problems were no more common in treatment groups than in the placebo group. Now, the placebo group are people who don't get medicine. Treatment group get the medicine. But they're saying that they didn't find any serious adverse effects. Okay? Now, gastrointestinal symptoms, including nausea or abdominal pain, may occur in less than 2% of the patients, but seem to decrease when doses are taken with a meal. Because of its anti-androgenergic properties, like androgens, right, for men, testosterone, okay, women should not take saw palmetto for treatment of urogenital problems. Like if a woman has overactive bladder and stuff like that, you don't take that. You don't need anything messing with your estrogen, progesterone. Excuse me. Let's see. Especially if they take contraceptives. Because guess what happened? You'll end up pregnant. Because your contraception ain't going to work. Okay? You feel me? And if you're on hormone replacement therapy, have breast cancer, or are pregnant, you don't mess with saw palmetto. Okay, women? All right. Furthermore, no clinical evidence supporting a beneficial effect of saw palmetto in the treatment of urethritis in women. So point blank, women don't take it. All right. But it may be beneficial for men. All right. Now, dosages. Oh, wait. Let's do toxicology. Saw palmetto is widely considered a safe phytomedicine, and no serious toxicological effects are reported in the scientific literature. Results of the complementary and alternative medicine for urological symptoms trial found no evidence of toxicity among 369 patients randomized to 320 milligrams, 640 milligrams, or 960 milligrams. So let me say this. Remember, the higher the dose, the potential for side effects may be. So they're telling you that with these 3 dosages, there were no significant toxicities reported. And these doses were taken up to 3 times the usual clinical dose during an 18-month period. Wow. So now let's talk the dosages. And like I said, you know what? We're definitely gonna do a part 2. Because this is some really, really good information that, I mean, we got chamomile, all kind of stuff. I really think we really need, this is some good stuff that is beneficial to talk about. Especially, I can't wait to get to echinacea. I really can't, because, you know, anti-inflammatory properties. I really think that we definitely need to, you know, with the cold and all of this, that, and the other, and these allergies, ironically, like I said, got me today. And reading this has really been beneficial. So, but let me finish with the dosage, and then we'll start St. John's wort, but we won't finish it. But we'll know that that's where we need to pick up next week. But standardized lipophilic extracts of saw palmetto are administered at a dose between 100 and 400 milligrams twice a day for the treatment of BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy. A dose of 160 milligrams twice a day is the most commonly used dosage in clinical trials. So if the clinical trials are what's telling us this information, I think it would behoove you to take the dose that the clinical trial tested on people, okay? All right, so 160 twice a day, but you can't even get people to take one dose of something a day. I'm telling you, tit for tat. They may rather take finasteride for BPH, which is the conventional medicine, versus taking saw palmetto twice a day. I'm just saying, I don't know, okay? But the therapeutic benefits are observed within 3 to 4 weeks after the initiation of treatment, which usually lasts for 3 to 6 months. Everything has its risk benefit. It's all up to you, okay? Now, the next drug is St. John's wort, and it has 2 stars. Same as the saw palmetto, 2 stars. And remember what I told you, 2 stars is clinically beneficial. 3 stars is effective, clinically effective, and that's really what you want, okay? But there aren't too many that have 3 stars. But I'm gonna say this so that the only one, there's 3 of them that were studied that had 3 stars, just so you'll know, is the kava, it is the English ivy leaf, and ginger. Now we know ginger is good for you. We've heard it, we've tried it. We've been doing some little bit of ginger. Ginger's good. So I can't wait to talk about ginger. All right. But St. John's wort is called Hypericum perforatum. It's also known as amber touch and heal. Amber touch and heal. Goat weed and Klamath weed, and that is Klamath, Klamath weed. Now this is a perennial, native to Europe, Western Asia, and North Africa. It is a resilient weed, widespread in parts of the United States and southern Canada. The plant has golden yellow flowers that bloom in the summer, which are collected and dried. So you gotta it's about summertime. The medicinal use of St. John's wort as a topical anti-inflammatory and for wound healing has been known since ancient Greece. Extracts have been used in folk medicine for the treatment of depression and other mood disorders, and also as a diuretic. Make you pee. Woo! Today, though, St. John's wort is used primarily for the treatment of mild to moderate depression and has traditionally been the most commonly prescribed antidepressant in Germany, where it is available as a prescription medication. So if you're German and you move to the United States, guess what they more than likely are going to take? Some St. John's wort. Okay? So topically, an anti-inflammatory, heal the body, and taking it internally, mild to moderate depression. Wow. But remember what I said. You have to be very, very careful. Tell your healthcare provider that you're taking this before they prescribe you other stuff. because medicines can be potentiated, which means souped up, heightened, or medications can be decreased in their effectiveness depending on what you're taking and how much you're taking. So the long story short of the lecture tonight is God's green earth. Talking about herbal medications. Can they be beneficial? Sure they can. But do you know enough about them to take something that you heard someone say was good for this and good for that? Not until you know more about it. No, 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 no. And that is why we are talking about what we're talking about. Yes, I want to get to the point where, for example, what did I see for bronchitis and asthma? The English ivy leaf has 3 stars, which means it is clinically effective for bronchitis and asthma. Now, there's seasonal asthma. This time of year, everybody's sniffing, sneezing, wheezing, can't breathe because of allergies. Do we want to know the efficacy of the English ivy leaf? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Who wants an asthma attack in the hospital or an emergency room? But we have to make sure that it's safe. And we have to know adverse effects. We have to speak to the pharmacist and make sure that there's not going to interact with any of the medicines we take. And it's the timing of the day that you take it. It may have a side effect of making you sleepy. You might have to take it at night, or it may make you hyper. You might have to take it in the morning when you get up. There's not enough known. There's not enough research done. It's not regulated. These not hormonal, but herbal medicines are not FDA approved, tested, and recommended because they're not tested. But St. John's wort, wow. Extracts also have an antibacterial properties, accounting for the antiseptic and wound healing. Like I said, it's used topically to heal your wound. It's got antibacterial properties and wound healing properties of topical formulations. Topical now. All right. St. John's wort is well tolerated and generally safe. Mild side effects include gastrointestinal symptoms, mild sedation or tiredness. So you definitely ain't gonna take it and go to work. And dizziness, headache, and dry mouth. So if you're already taking something that causes dry mouth, don't take St. John's wort, okay? Or be careful with the amount that you take.
When you do that.
2 rare adverse events may occur after administration of St. John's wort. First, transient photosensitivity may occur when administered in higher doses. So photosensitivity means the sunlight, oh, I can't see, oh, it's blinding me, but transient means it comes and goes, or it don't last forever, don't last that long. It's not permanent, okay? Second is the occurrence of what we call serotonin syndrome when co-administered with SSRIs. So serotonin, SSRIs, these are antidepressants. These are drugs that you take, prescription drugs for depression. And so you would not want to take St. John's wort if you're on other antidepressant medication, because it's not a good side effect. Palpitations, it's not a good feeling. You may have chest pain. It's not a good feeling, okay? According to the American Psychiatric Association, St. John's wort may be considered for patients with major depression. Kind of like an additive, a little supplement. You know, you add a little flavor to something and make it taste better. I'm just saying, okay? For patients with major depression who prefer complementary and alternative therapies. So there are people who are like, look, I got major depression. I don't like the side effect of those prescriptions. I may want to take this. The side effects may be less. Although evidence for its efficacy is modest and at best, and careful attention to drug-drug interactions is needed. So remember what I said, St. John's wort only had 2 stars. So it's clinically beneficial, did not say it was effective. So it's just something to think about. And I'm going to do dose and we're done. So standardized preparations of St. John's wort are usually administered from 500 to 1,800 milligrams a day. In most studies, 900 milligrams was administered daily, or 450 twice a day, or 300 3 times a day. It just depends on your tolerability. And in regards to toxicology, it is widely accepted in the literature that when used within the normal therapeutic range, St. John's wort is devoid of toxicological properties. In high doses, though, it can cause side effects. All right. It also has been reported in patients with HIV receiving high doses of intravenous administered St. John's wort. Okay. And we're talking about, let me see, to date, only 1 study. Anyway, there's not enough evidence or not enough. The data collected from pregnancies of 54 St. John warts treated women and 108 women either treated with conventional antidepressants or receiving no pharmacological treatments. There's only 1 study that was done. So there's not enough information about its treatment on certain populations. Okay? All right. There we go. And we're going to start next week. We'll probably start talking about ginkgo biloba. Okay? All right. This is Dr. Anna Shaw Devlin, and we're talking about God's green earth. Herbal medications and their medicinal properties. Are they efficacious or not? And what we need to know, what we need to disclose to our physicians. Do not think of them as, well, that ain't no medicine because the doctor didn't write you a prescription for it. They are medicines. Okay? All right. God bless each and every one, and we will see you on Sunday. I pray that you have a restful night's sleep. God bless you. All right. Adios, amigos. Have a beautiful, beautiful night.